Oh, he fell over there. Hello, you. Welcome. It is time to deal with number 14 of the Marseille Tarot today. Excellent. Let me just get my levels there. I'm experimenting with this new exciting position. Okay. And, well, it's all very merry here in quarantine Alameda in Lisbon. I hope you're all doing fine and welcome to today's edition of the fast-moving Ghost Caboose with Grandpa Ansel as your host. How about that? New spread. See, I knew something bad was going to happen. Okay. Well, the reason I have this new layout is so I can just keep these cards out in the open as far as possible. But you don't really get so much detail. I also have a very crappy camera. So I have left in the description of the video an image of the card, and accompanying the Temperance card is the cards before and after. So Temperance, there we go, I've made a little mistake here, excuse me. Temperance is number 14, there we go, in the middle. And there she is. Maybe I'll hold it a little bit closer. Just a few moments, but of course you've got the image description in the link, or image link in the description. Okay, so I'm not going to hold that out. Then number 14, 10 minus, or 14 minus 10, of course, is 4. So 14, and its accompaniment is 4, stability, which is the Emperor. Then you have, before this, the Nameless Arcanum, which is the first video I did on the tarot, which is number 13, supposedly an unlucky number. Not if you're St. Anthony here in Lisbon, because that's the day he ascended into heaven, 13th of June. How's that? And then, I've made a complete mess up here. It's the Devil, excuse me, Devil is number 15. Oh, I can't see these standing much longer here. Now, the important thing is you see the sequence here. Temperance is one of the cardinal virtues, the 4 virtues outlined by Plato, Aristotle, very common in antiquity, also mentioned in the Bible. Fortitude or strength, which is part of the tarot. Then we have justice, which is like the main cardinal virtue. Temperance is the 3rd cardinal virtue. Moderation, mostly associated with not drinking or abstaining from alcohol. Was also understood in Renaissance England. There you go. I knew something that was going to happen. Understood as being refraining from eating rich food. And then you have the last cardinal virtue. Now, the last cardinal virtue is, of course, I can hear you yelling out, prudence. So sensible courses of action, choosing sensible actions for the future, prudence. It's not in the tarot. There's, at least it's not in the Marseille deck, and it's not in the earlier Visconti Sforza deck, or decks, because there are several versions of them. I know of some people who are convinced the tarot has always been missing one card, and this could be it. It's quite convincing that this could be it. So let's just fill up here. So this is one of the most taxing videos to research for. I research out of love, by the way. I'm not doing it to prove a point or to make myself look clever. I love to do all this. I love to research, but this was quite a difficult one in terms of it needed a lot of... in order for me to feel comfortable giving one of these talks, I want to really get underneath it, and this one took quite a while because there's so many figures of temperance across cultures, and so many sort of quite unusual different ideas that I'm not quite used to in this card. So let's get ourselves a bit rooted. I'm feeling a little bit flying around in the air here. So let's start with, of course, The Way of the Tarot by Alejandro Jodorowsky. And one thing that struck me today, researching this card, is, of course, in every single discussion of the major arcana, Jodorowsky talks about in a reading. There's a section in a reading for every arcana or arcanum. So the implication is this is for teachers, this is for givers of tarot, this is for readers of tarot, rather than people who just want to have their tarot read. So in order to learn how to do something, you have to learn to become a teacher. That's the implication. Just a personal example, I had back pain for many, many years. I thought the only way I'm really going to sort this out is to become a teacher of Pilates in my case. It could have been anything, it could have been yoga. So here she is. Your guardian angel for today. And I'm going to assume she's a woman. To me, she's one of the more beautiful figures in the tarot. There are many beautiful people in the tarot, let's be honest. Temperance. And the French is always given as the first word in these major arcana. Of course, it comes from Marseille. Jodorowsky speaks French. And there's no gender here for the word temperance. So I think she looks quite woman-like. And but something Jodorowsky talks about in a second is the fact that there is no gender to this word. Temperance, number 14. Oh, excuse me, I've jumped ahead of the subheading. Protection, circulation, healing. Temperance, number 14, depicts an angel. This card arrives after the profound work of Arcanum 13 that has swept away the useless, creating the emptiness necessary for the re-establishment of inner circulation. With his scythe, the nameless Arcanum sweeps away dead matter in order to bring new life. There is no life without death. We should note that temperance has no article, no masculine or feminine. We can speak about it in both genders, he with respect to the angel and she with respect to temperance. Just like the emperor in the first decimal series, so emperor is number 4, the idea of stability. Temperance is a 4, the number of stability. The angel is anchored in the earth and does not fly, although its light blue wings give it that possibility. Temperance has gone beyond the carnal, and he or she can soar into the most subtle regions. Jodorowsky is quite adamant that the angel is either a man or a woman or is sexless. I think there's at least a couple of passages in the Bible where angels are not man or woman. The implication is either they're aliens, so, well, effectively aliens, extraterrestrial life, or they're just simply beings that look like humans that aren't humans. In the film Dogma, one of the angels is revealed to have no genitalia. So, his or her yellow pupil, as in the middle of the eye, illuminated with pure awareness, brings to mind the verse by Rilke, all angels are terrifying. In the eye of the guardian angel here, or in the eyes, the pupils are yellow. If you look at it long enough, it really is quite frightening, actually. Terrifying, according to the poet Rilke. Let's see if I can pronounce this. Hooray! All angels are terrifying. This superhuman gaze could be that of the angel, of the only angel to see, God, Gabriel. There's a relationship here with eagles. Eagles are associated with St. John and with Jesus, the only figures said to have seen the image or the face of God. After all, God created humans in his image, so for some reason humans are supposed to almost emulate the form of God. Yet we can't see the face of God. If we did, we would go mad. We would have too much knowledge perhaps, and we will go blind. The idea of being sunburned by God's inspiration. All angels are terrifying. The verse or the line in Rilke's, let me get this right because I'm reading it down. Do we know elegies? As you can tell, don't know this poem very well. Do we know elegies? Is a series of poems written by Rilke, and this is sort of coming towards what I feel about this card, what speaks to me. The angel is not a pleasant figure. He or she looks rather beautiful with long flowing hair, rather attractive, rather radiant, with some divine inspiration. But the pupils, if you look deeper, there's something unholy or awesome about it in the old sense, not unholy. The very fact that the angel is holy is itself a kind of tinnitus. And anyone who has tinnitus, who suffers from tinnitus, noise in the ears, ringing, permanent ringing in the ears, maybe I would say, may get what I mean when I say tinnitus is angelic noise. That doesn't mean fluffy pillows and warm, delightful duvet covers and blue skies, floating clouds. Tinnitus is harsh, it's torture. Tinnitus is a ringing in my ears. I have it all the time. That to me, the best way of describing it is angelic. It seems to encompass so many of the qualities of tinnitus, which is piercing, it's from above, it's so intense that it seems to cover the head. And this is ironic because you type in, I had to sort of research quite a bit today, guardian angels, Googling how are saints different from angels, why are guardian angels considered to be children, and all you come across really in the first few hits on Google are how to coach your inner angel, how to open your heart to inner guardian angels, follow the YouTube videos of this and that coach, and to get these speakers who go all around the world making quite a lot of money out of this mini marketplace of guardian angels. Because we consider angels to be a comforting part of our lives. Little do we know that angels are not supposed to be human. They're not even like saints. Saints were human. That's the division between saints and angels. Guardian angels are unhuman in a sense that I find rather terrifying. I think it's worth to read a little bit more of this text by Rilke, the poet. Let's see here. Who, if I cried out, so this is in the elegies of Rilke, the Duino elegies, who, if I cried out, would hear me among the angelic orders? And even if one were to suddenly take me to its heart, I would vanish into its stronger existence. For beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror that we are still able to bear, and we revere it so because it calmly disdains to destroy us. So a Lacanian idea, or possibly a psychoanalytic idea, that the real, the beauty that you're looking for is always going to transcend you. You desire, the thing you desire, the fancy is exactly that which is beyond your reach, and you're always going to miss it. If you actually could encompass and could discover the real, you would have your subjectivity absolutely split. This is real, like Fisher-Price approach to Lacan. I'm very new to this particular word of psychoanalysis, but I think you get my point, the idea of unbearable pleasure, jouissance, being something that you almost want to avoid, the guardian angel also being something you want to kind of have at arm's distance. For beauty is nothing but the beginning of terror that we are still able to bear, and we revere it so because it calmly disdains to destroy us. Every angel is terror. Why could an angel be terror? Well, as I said, the angelic presence is inhuman, it's from up high, and it's probably telling you stuff you don't want to hear. That's one theory about tinnitus, is you're not listening to your samskara or your trauma. I think that has limited use as a way of understanding tinnitus and angels and so on, but terror also could be the figure of the superego, the third part of the mind's components according to Freudian psychoanalysis. You've got the id on the one hand, which is the brute, pleasure-seeking animal, which is really stupid. And then you have on the other side the superego, on the other half of the brain, which is the socially conscious lawmaker in your head, who is constantly trying to please outer society to make sure that your appearances are lawful and law-abiding, that your bearing is law-abiding. So superego is the guardian angel, the voice in your head, the voice of sense. The superego in Freudian psychoanalytics or psychoanalysis is called the over-me, the über-ich, über-ich. It's quite a nice way of saying, instead of superego, we think ego is all about us, conceitedness, arrogance. No, it's much deeper than that. The over-I, so to speak, the over-me. It's like a hand on your shoulder, it's your inner critic. Wikipedia has a really good entrance here. This terrifying superego that, if you let it get out of hand, will control you and make you completely neurotic. Think about Woody Allen, socially awkward, plenty of other characters. So according to Wikipedia, the superego strives to act in a socially appropriate manner, whereas the id just wants instant self-gratification. So it's important here not to think that this angel is some kind of father figure which always has the answer. I think the superego can very much be as stupid as the id. If there was to be an id, the beast, the animal here in the tarot, I wouldn't say the bull or the oxen that you see in some of the figures. That relates to either Matthew or Mark or Luke, I can't remember. It would probably, maybe, for me it's the magician, number one of the major arcanum. That's just my initial responses to this, but there seems to be a little bit of a lack of a clear identity of an id in the tarot. Little guidance really is offered by the guardian angel. I mean, in my view, the guardian angel just stops stuff happening or just gently guides you to the right way. But they don't, it's not like a father figure who, like the Pope or even the Emperor. The Pope is supposed to be a bridge, supposed to give teaching. The Emperor, if he's really an Emperor, or the King, if they're really king, doesn't need to use words to show that they're the leader. They're just a natural leader. People naturally respond to their status, their authority. Then you have the idea, of course, that the angel has no gender. The angel itself is neutral as a state of being. Just to quickly finish off that Roker section. Every angel is terror, and so I hold myself back and swallow the cry of a darkened sobbing. Who then can we make use of? Not angels, not men, and the resourceful creatures see clearly that we are not really at home in the interpreted world. Throw the emptiness out of your arms to add to the spaces we breathe. Maybe the birds will feel the expansion of air in more intimate flight. All angels are terrifying. This superhuman gaze could be that of the only angel to see God, Gabriel. The gaze and hair of Temperance are filled with divine light, and the 5-petaled red flower opening at the top of the head indicates that he or she bears the quintessence. You can see that at the top of the angel's head. Possibly a third eye symbol, although it's rather too high to be a third eye. It's more the point, the top of the head, the point where the halo could rest. His or her thoughts manifest in the form of a marvellous perfume, or perfume beyond speech. Keywords to the angel, keywords to Temperance, guardian angel, measure. The word temperance comes from tempos, which actually means to stretch. Of course, time is related to tempos or tempus. The idea of a stretch of time, a measure of time. Blend, and one of the cool things I can see here is this flowing from two directions. It really seems to me like there's flow coming from below to above, as well as from above to below. Recalling the old Hermetic phrase, as above, that's so below. and so below as above. So what happens above will happen below. All things balance eventually. To blend, to circulate, harmony, to heal, to protect, benevolence, prudence, to moderate, health, even tempered. Health being, says we need that superego, we need that voice in our head sometimes, otherwise we would walk around and just try to have sex with anything that moves. We would let the id run wild. But we have seen that this angel is anchored in the earth. 2 snakes. Now I don't see these snakes. Jodorowsky is convinced there are 2 snakes in the bottom of the bottom of the dress. 2 snakes are interlaced at his or her feet in a caress. Temperance has therefore assumed all telluric energies, so energies of the earth, of the underground, of the subterranean world. Temperance has therefore assumed all telluric energies and dominated his or her libido. So instead of me considering this as some freakishly alien, not man, not woman, maybe it's an embodiment of both man and woman together. So that's a more positive, optimistic reading. These 2 snakes are the sexual poles, the male and female of Tantra, or the 2 nadis, Ida and Pingala, that entwine along the spinal column up to the azure wings. Yet again we come in the tarot to this ideal of the union of male and female. Certainly in Tantra, the Vedic texts, as well as Vajrayana Buddhism, there's this huge emphasis on becoming androgynous, not exactly sexless, but a union of male and female ideas. This symbol also brings to mind Hermes' Caduceus, so that's the snake revolving around the stick, as you will see on ambulances across the world. Figure of pharmacon and health. And here we go, the word I really struggle to pronounce. As well as this symbol representing Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl, the Mesoamerican divinity of the air, of wind, and of learning, which I think is a great combination of things. The fact that air is combined with learning, and people can be way too up in the air, academics, becoming completely neurotic with their PhD theses, and not being down to earth, not being humble. So the feathered serpent, this is Quetzalcoatl. It's really hard to say. So basically the Mexican or Mesoamerican feathered serpent, figure of learning, wind and spirits. So we're looking at the bottom of her dress here. The feathered serpent of pre-Columbian religions. The angel grows above the power of his or her sexuality. We find there again the animal force sublimated into the celestial and spiritual energy of his or her blonde hair. The 4 yellow triangles on his or her chest evoke the 4 centers of the human being. So again, we have the depiction of a quadrant, and or not a quadrant here, but of the teeth. The camera's not good enough for you to see this, but she's got her bodice or her sort of dress. There's a hand-like figure in her dress, the flesh-coloured hand. Then you have the red cord, a veil, some kind of dress. And then you have 4 sort of teeth aiming towards her face. The 4 yellow triangles on his or her chest evoke the 4 centers of the human being: intellectual, emotional, sexual, and corporeal. We have 4 decks, 4 suits, I should call them, in the tarot. 4 is used, of course, in Aristotelian ideas, of cutting the world into 4 humours. Also true in Ayurvedic ideas of body types, air, earth, and so on. So we've got the 4 kind of triangles, or the teeth I call them. These centres do not intercommunicate, but are juxtaposed, each with its own law. But we see a yellow circle above, a symbol of perfection, in which a triangle has been carved that will permit each element to fit into it perfectly. This is the 5th element, the essential being in us that communicates with each of the 4 centres, allowing harmony to be established in the human being. Similarly, a hand, the symbol of luck and peace, think of the hand of Fatima, can be seen in the flesh-coloured panel over the angel's chest, his or her heart radiating charity. Temperance ensures that energies and fluids can communicate with each other. Let me just hit that nail on the head. Temperance, of course, means abstaining from drinking alcohol or eating rich food, in this case. We could say that he or she mixes water with wine. Mixing water with wine, an unholy combination for so many people here on the Iberian Peninsula. Never mind Italy, you do not mix your wine with water, at least not the young, and not in certain traditional communities. That is sacrilegious. How could you doctor a magical substance? I have told friends over the years that I'll spread the wonders of mixing water and wine, and have almost only been met with shock. You are not allowed to do it. Why? Well, wine is seen to be its own sacred substance. People get so upset with you, and I think it could even be, maybe stretch, associated with the blood of God, or blood of Christ, of course, from the church. You don't tamper with it, you don't touch it. The truth is, though, on a practical level, here in Portugal, some of the wines are about 15%. Regengus, the classic one, I think from Setúbal, in the south of Lisbon, it's 15%, it's strong stuff, and just a super practical thing, you chuck in a little bit of water just to release the flavours, just to allow the aroma out. I don't see why wine is supposed to be so radically different from any other alcohol that you can't do this. I think therefore its relationship to the church, to the nave, to the altar, and to Catholic traditions, that you don't touch it. Of course, old men here in Lisbon sometimes have a bit of ice in their wine, or a bit of sparkling water. That's quite rare, but it does happen in the summer. But I think it's interesting that wine has this exclusive role in so much of our lives. This source of pride actually becomes the worst kind of conservatism. So I had written some notes on this and I can't find them. Just 1 second. Water, therefore, I think it's also a devaluing of water. What's so bad with water? Water, therefore, is devalued because it's supposed to have no taste, which it more or less doesn't. I mean, there's better kinds of water. And water, of course, speaks of the places, rocks, the geology expresses itself through water. There's a short article in the New York Times about water in wine. The journalist writes, "Water is indeed a useful flavour enhancer. It's not supposed to add anything, it just loosens what's already there. Exactly because it dilutes other ingredients and can change their balance for the better." Balance, temperance, measuring. Temperance is all about balance. Balance comes from those two dishes. And the allegorical figure of temperance doesn't always look like this, although this is a familiar one. It's often with scales, can be with scales to balance things out, and that's also associated with justice. And it says a lot about culture as well, Southern European culture, that you absolutely do not touch certain things. It really upsets me when people say, "Oh, God, you're British, what do you know? You come from a country with no distinctions in food," which may be historically true, but you tell that, or at least you go to any English kitchen and you make a cup of tea and you do it what might be perceived the wrong way. You add the water and then the tea bag first, you add the milk first and then the tea bag and the water. You will be met with harsh and crude physical violence, if not extreme passive aggression. We do care, And every culture cares about food and drink. Food and drink are such comforting things that to mess with them is tantamount to insulting a whole culture. So we do have rituals anywhere you are in the world, especially with food and drink. And it says a lot about what a country considers holy as to what you tamper with, what you are supposed to be messing around or damaging. Imagine going to an Italian kitchen and making bolognese really quickly and boiling the pasta in with the water instead of letting the water boil first. All these strange codes that you're not following, that would be absolutely sacrilegious in that case. An argument is therefore that temperance, that having a balance, having been measured, requires you to push things out of balance, to step over to the other extreme, the other opposite, to do the battalion move, so to speak, of engaging with taboo, engaging with transgression in order to fully unify both the law and the taboo. I'm trying to think of different ways of saying this, or maybe we'll find our feet a little bit later along. But that's my general feeling, that balance, temperance, is not so nice and pleasant. The road to balance is not always one paved with gold and with shiny or fluffy clouds like the angels. Angels are harsh. All angels are terrifying. So, the 4 yellow triangles in the chest. The yellow circle above, so this is the circle here. You're not going to see it in my video, I'm afraid. Click on the image link in the description to see this. It's a circle, almost, with a little tooth at the bottom, a receptive little invisible triangle or part of a triangle which receives one of those 4 triangles from below. We see a yellow circle above the symbol of perfection, into which a triangle has been carved that will permit each element to fit into it perfectly. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful image. This is the 5th element, the essential being in us that communicates with each of the 4 centers, allowing harmony to be established in the human being. Similarly, a hand, the symbol of luck and peace, can be seen in the flesh-coloured panel above or over the angel's chest, his or her heart radiating charity. Charity, universal love, the cups. Temperance ensures that energies and fluids can communicate with each other. What do we want when we engage with the tarot? When we engage with mysticism, we want flowing, we want movement. We don't want dryness, stiffness, desiccation. We want to gush with love and knowledge. We could say that he or she mixes water with wine. Through his or her action, there are no more opposing energies, no more opposites, but only complementarities. The yin and the yang is not exactly a clear-cut dichotomy. The yin and the yang embodies the opposite, swallows it, makes love to the opposite, where you become one in union with the light and the dark. Only complementarities. It's a strange word. This is the secret of balance. Temperance indicates the return of health, mental and emotional balance, the control of the passions, not through repression, but through sublimation. Not through repression, the superego, listening to the voice, being neurotic, being Woody Allen, but through sublimation, through offering or surrendering or ascending. Temperance brings a pacifying message. Find your center. Your vital pendulum must avoid extremes. Go by the middle way. Beneath the hem of his or her robe, the hem is the bottom. Beneath the hem of his or her robe, we can see, this is exciting, the tip of the shoe. One of the rare violet patches in the tarot. Hooray! Violet. We know we're onto something. One of the rare violet patches in the tarot. So exciting. At the bottom, above the letter N. Violet is a very special colour in the tarot. What might violet represent? Violet is often coupled with orange, makes a beautiful combination with orange. Both violet and orange have very deep mystical qualities. And then it sounds really easy to say something like that. Yellow has a deep mystical quality. White has a deep mystical quality. No, these are special. They are rarer in culture across the world. They do not come up quite naturally, quite so often, but at rare moments. Blue is always there pretty much. White is always there, especially if you're British, in the clouds. Grey, right? You see these a lot. Green, common, normal. Not that they're not special. Violet. Break of day. That time of morning. Just before the silk of grey illumination or brilliant sort of radiance appears. Just before the sun actually comes over the horizon, you get the wash of blue and the little suggestion of purple. It's almost like the world is about to sneeze the sun and bring out the red, and then of course the rather dictatorial blue that dominates the rest of the day. Violet, so this is a bit earlier on in a chapter called the 11 colour scale. Violet, why is it so divine? Well, priests wear them. Why do priests wear them? Why have certain cultures considered violet to be so strong, purple to be such a divine colour? Precisely because it's a mix of red and blue. Red is action, blue is receptivity, a perfect union of both. The union of the two extremes represents supreme wisdom. So only the top dog, the Pope or the high up fathers in the Catholic Church are allowed to wear purple, not just any old seminarian. When Christ began to speak to his disciples, he was clad in red. When he was wearing violet, he was being crucified, symbolizing his attainment of complete wisdom. However, violet is also the colour of sacrifice and is identified with funeral rites. So following through on what that wisdom is. But in reality, this involves the death of the ego. So the ego, we commonly associate this word as the self-feeding egoist in all of us, but it's something quite different depending on in which context it's read. Death of the ego, yes, of course, could be death of the self, or the self in terms of who we understand ourselves to be. Very little violet is found in the tarot, as it represents the greatest of secrets, domination of the ego to attain an impersonal life. I'm always aware that I might be reading into the tarot what isn't there. And there is a big part of the tarot that Jodorowsky claims is there, which might not be so apparent, at least, not without a stretch, a tempus of the imagination, a temperance of the imagination. And that big part is loss of the self, loss of the ego. In terms of his history, Jodorowsky spent a lot of time with a Zen Buddhist monk and followed him. And what is the goal? Well, one of them in Zen Buddhism is of emptying the self, of ridding yourself of the world's harm, of becoming at one with the whole world by becoming a vacuum. That's one way of interpreting it, and I might have been able to say it a bit better, but you get what I mean. Destruction of the ego. And I'm often afraid that these readings are a little bit maybe too cerebral and head-based and way too obsessed with history, but it's just my way of coming here authentically, sincerely, not proving a point, but trying to be authentic to the tarot, be myself and write my own narrative with this whole thing. But certainly those things, those approaches, Jodorowsky's Zen approach, my historical approach and the etymological approach, they are unshakable, they're part of me. I can't move on from this. I mean, I could go off up on a mountain and be struck by lightning, or I could go to the forest, take lots of LSD and see what happens, see if I manage to unroot myself from this interpretation. I would gather that, I would predict that this feeling would get stronger through being estranged from it. I would always have this historical approach, always have this idea of looking back into our ancestors, into our historical ghosts, in order to reaffirm the present and find greater unity. And to me, these two things, these approaches, Jodorowsky's Zen and maybe my historical approach, to me, a term I like to use, the subreal, the beyond the real, inviting and including surrealism, but instead of being above or beyond, sur, it's below. It's coming from down, it's coming through your guts, through your bones. It's a kind of mystical knowledge that is gnostic in the sense that you have to do it. You can't read about it, it's got to be lived, and it's got to be learned through action, through doing. So in a way it's very, very accessible and isn't about using the head. It's the subreal. Find your centre, your vital pendulum, and you must avoid extremes. Go the middle way. I think you should embrace the extremes and go to the opposite in order to reaffirm where you came from. Beneath the hem of his or her robe, we can see the tip of a shoe. So we've got the violet again. Let me just point that out again. This angelic foot has also been tempered, has been measured, tested. It is the blend of the active red and receptive blue that shares the body of the temperance. When we then realise that inside his or her robe the angel is violet. He or she has realised the union of the positive and the negative, the active and the passive. This is the secret discreetly suggested by the foot. And of course, how do we get that divine wisdom? How do we perceive that divine contact? We have to become humbled, go down to the earth. Humility, humble. The two words come from humus, the earth. There is no way of going up without going down. But St. John of the Cross's dark night of the soul. You have to find that flame burning within you first if you are to see it in other people. That's just an idea of this shoe, of this violet, not quite brilliant, but deeply wise part of the guardian angel. Who this guardian angel is and what the hell they're doing in our cultures, they're a huge part of Islamic culture, Christian culture, to a lesser extent Jewish culture, but the culture of antiquity. Well, my impression is something is up with the angel, that the angel is rather needy of us, wants us, requires us to make mistakes in order to justify their existence. And if you want to love and learn the tarot, of course, or if you want to, not to love the tarot, but if you want to deepen your appreciation of it, what better way than become a teacher yourself? So here we go. Jodorowsky's In a Reading. In a reading, what might come up? What might happen? This card often appears as a sign of healing or reconciliation. We are protected. It urges the sight for balance amid apparent opposites. The traditional assumptions of the guardian angel is that they are always there, always on your shoulder. That sounds rather tyrannical, like Christopher Hitchens' idea of Christianity as worse than North Korea, a totalitarianism beyond the dreams of the family of Kim Jong-un, right? That in Christianity you're not even allowed to think about sinning, never mind sinning itself. We are protected. Did we ask for this? That's the question. It urges the search for balance amid apparent opposites. People frequently live with an internal rift, for example, between the intellect and the rest of the self, or to the contrary, between the body and the rest of the personality. If one is very athletic, between the front and back of the stage, for people who are often performing. Between a very elevated spiritual concept and imperious sexual desires. That's a big one. Especially in Quaker communities, not to spill the beans, but true, our fear of the body and the love for divine knowledge Deary me, what a load of unnecessary pathologies we wind ourselves up with thanks to the superego, the idea of performing for society, for manifesting a holiness. I haven't read this, but I suspect with Freud he outlines that this part of the body, this part of the psyche, the superego, can be as stupid as the id, as the brute animal, the kind of lizard of the brain. In all cases, temperance is calling us to take the middle path, to seal the union with ourselves. How do you find the middle path? You have to go very far in both directions. So, into what you're comfortable with and what you're not comfortable with. How on earth are you supposed to know the middle path if you don't go away from it first? So, the middle path, in order to seal the union with ourselves. Then starting from this point, to deal with the rest of the world. This arcanum also sends a warning to alcoholics and drug abusers, to all those who know they are imbalanced because of their own actions. Big part of this unspoken aspect of this path, of this card, is addiction. Why is it we become dependent on substances, on other people, on anything? Because of dislocation and disconnection with society. That's the opinion of Johann Hari, who himself, a journalist who was addicted to, I think some kind of prescribed drug, or prescription drug, that's what he called it. And he wrote, we're all addicted because we're disconnected from each other. The work of temperance does not consist of cutting, but of adding a value that moderates the passions that cause us harm. Trust to jealousy, sobriety to greed. So there's a positive step needed to get over these addictions. You don't just sort of cut something out and go cold turkey. You have to have another goal, one of those steps, the 12 steps of getting out of addictions. And if temperance spoke, so we're listening to the angel speak here in this strange androgynous voice that he or she has. I am with you permanently. Not a single second passes that I am not with you, because my true essence is to be a guardian. A guardian, in terms of the word, means to watch over. Regard in French, regard. Thinking of a bodyguard or a lifeguard, or even something you might get through your letterbox every day. I'm guessing not a lot of you. The Guardian. The newspaper comes from 1821. It used to be called the Manchester Guardian, and it was almost like a loving, caring, knowing presence in your life to receive the Manchester Guardian, later on known as the Guardian. The Guardian itself could be thought of, the newspaper, as an eye to the world, but a vision for you as well, for learning. Guarding, if someone's guarding you, they're watching over you, they're protecting you, but the important thing is they're looking. It makes me think of the TV screens in Orwell's 1984. The TV screen is for you to see, but most importantly, it sees you. And the mirror, the mirrored glass, if that's the right term, that is used in reality TV programs, like Big Brother. It's glass that has some kind of special paint or whatever painted over it, so the cameras can look through. The point of the mirrors is not for the contestants to look at each other, it's for us to look at them. So the Guardian has some kind of voyeuristic drive. We didn't ask for this Guardian to sit by our shoulder 24 hours a day. Preserve, protect, and maintain. That's the idea of regard, of a guardian. So it doesn't necessarily mean that this guardian will, as Jodorowsky says, to stop us walking into traffic. Or even more unlikely situation of not letting us go on the plane that will eventually crash. But it's something that will maintain life, that will allow you to continue. Often we get confused that movement in spirituality is inherently good. I mentioned earlier that flow was always good. We want to avoid being dry. If Taoism teaches us one thing, it's to stop this movement, to blunt the edges, to soften the glare, to realise when it is that we actually need to block things in our lives. If we're addicted to psychoanalysis, we always think that blockages are bad, but sometimes they're good. If we weren't blocked to things, we'd quite literally be schizophrenic. We would have no filter for the voices in our heads, including the superego. So a lifeguard, a bodyguard, looking. I'm with you permanently. You cannot imagine the number of dangers and illnesses from which I save you. I am there. I am watching over you. When you are dreaming, I am watching over your dreams. I drive the way. I love you infinitely. Put your trust in me, because when you stop believing in me, I become smaller and smaller and then invisible. If there's any claims for me, for the guardian in my life, it might be at least a kind of receptivity to a wiser voice, which is still me, but some kind of angelic me who knows better than I think I do. So it could be a super ego beyond the I, or beyond the I, beyond the I, über ich. You cannot imagine the number of dangers and illnesses from which I save you. I'm all there watching over you when you're dreaming. You don't have nightmares because of me. Yeah. I love you infinitely. Put your trust in me, because when you stop believing in me, I become smaller and smaller and then invisible. I lose some of my power. You lose your intuition. But once you start seeing me again, I act more and more effectively, both inside you and in the outside world. Just like a mother will give her child to an untrustworthy individual to watch, you can entrust yourself to me like a child. I will protect you. How many among you have suddenly become aware of my existence when I pulled you back just as a car was about to run you down? Or when I dissuaded you from going onto an airplane that would later explode in flight? Or when I stopped your steps mere inches from the abyss? I am balance and prosperity. I am the inner voice that screams, "Look out!" and lets you avoid making the fatal error. Having the accident, making an irreversible gesture. I am on a state of constant alert on your behalf. I am the kindness of the universe. I communicate with nature and with all the entities governing the world, ensuring their favour towards you. I intercept dangers. I guide exchanges. I am present at the north, south, east and west, at the four corners of the world, so that you may live your lives in all confidence. I have been called guardian angel. That is how the church imagined me, with the appearance of a child or a cherub. I am that, but I am also much more than that. I am part of your subconscious, its benevolent part, the part that helps and keeps watch over you, even when you are sleeping. I am there to urge you to act when an action is good for you. Trust me, I'm here to balance you. Those who suffer and torture themselves do not know me, yet I am also there for them. I'm only waiting for them to see me and to call upon me. The angel is interrupted here by the traditional interpretations of temperance. Healing, health, protection, dynamic balance, exchanges, reconciliation, the circulation of fluids, blood and water, energy flow, the crossing of a frontier, travel, promontory dreams, so dreams that kind of anticipate things, as I understand it. Harmony, peaceful even temper, to blend, to balance, to water one's wine, balance of vital forces, angelic nature, the angel who has no sex, excessive tendency to moderation, there we go, this overarching superego ideal that dominates our lives, and we suffer, we're the slaves of our so-called sensible selves. Avarice, the other way around, desire, greed. Self-communication, messenger of grace, spiritual healing, the guardian angel, evokes the deceased, the funeral monument, transmigration of souls, reincarnation, and of course the feathered serpent, the Quetzalcoatl of the ancient Mexican Empire. And Temperance continues, "Dear guardian angel, I ask only one thing of you, that you recognise that you are not alone. But then you ask, what must be done to reach me? I shall answer you, you must begin by imagining me. You may first invoke my childish image of a guardian angel." That's a good start. Play with me like a child speaking to his angel. Act as if I existed. Imagine me there, right next to you, all the time, and that my sole purpose is to help you. Most importantly, like a trusting child, you must accept my aid. Doesn't seem to be very fair here. Imagine me there, right next to you, all the time, and imagine that my sole aim is to help you. There's a fly on the screen. Most importantly, like a trusting child, you must accept my aid. Abandon your defences. When you need something, ask me out loud. My guardian angel, help me, intercede for me in this problem, in this difficulty. I will respond to all your requests, whether they are practical or spiritual. Ask me to protect you. I love to protect you. Tell me. She loves, or he loves to protect us. That's their desire. Tell me, my protector, watch over my health. Help me find a job that will truly make me happy and in which I can realise my full human potential and ensure that my family will lack for nothing. Or tell me, my protector, help me stay calm in difficult circumstances. Help me progress and develop my awareness. Give me strength, improve my health, and ensure, that I make myself useful to all around me every day. I have confidence in you. Even if you do not believe me, imitate this belief, and little by little, I shall start to appear. Blaise Pascal said, if you don't believe in God, go to church, kneel down, and obey, and faith will come. Action over intellect. Body over head, so to speak. I am with you from the moment of birth to the moment called death, which is another birth. So there seems to be a break in the narrative in the tarot once we get up to 10. 1 to 10 has nice, fun, divine cards. The Messenger, the Fool, not the Messenger, the Magician, sorry. The High Priestess, the Pope, the Emperor, Lovers, just, quite nice stuff, earthy stuff. And then you get to the above 10, which is supposed to be the second realm of holiness, or spirituality, not holiness, I should say. And it gets all a bit uncomfortable. You've got, where is it? You've got the Tower, which is full of calamity. Then you have the Devil, before it, at number 15. And of course, the Nameless Arcanum, number 13. And Temperance is this little break in the rather problematic or challenging narrative, the storms of maybe a sort of more dedicated life of mystical surrender. And I think there are some uncomfortable truths here with Temperance. First of all, what I mentioned about we never asked for this figure to come into our lives, we never asked for a guardian angel. Why did we, as a culture, invent these ideas? Socrates, this is a quote from Wikipedia. By the way, Wikipedia entry for guardian angel is fantastic. I'm very, very pro Wikipedia, YouTube, Vimeo, all these free resources. And Wikipedia is really, really great for this subject. Socrates spoke of hearing the voice of his personal spirit. So the idea of guardian angel was, of course, very popular across many cultures, extending into antiquity. And Socrates spoke, "You have often heard me speak of an oracle or sign which comes to me, the sign I have had ever since I was a child. The sign is a voice which comes to me and always forbids me to do something which I am able to do, which I am going to do, but never commands me to do anything. And this is what stands in the way of my being a politician." The Greeks, just continuing this Wikipedia article, the Greeks also thought that deities guarded specific places. For instance, Athena was the patron goddess of the city of Athens. I think there's a peculiar mix here as well of patron saints. seem to have a role, like Hindu deities, in all spheres of life. Saint Gonçalo here in Portugal is the patron saint for widowers. Saint Lucy's patron saint for people who lose their eyesight. It's a real cornucopia, a huge, almost mandala of human pathologies and problems and their solutions in the form of saints. And I think Catholicism has maybe confused the Greek idea or the antique idea of a guardian angel with the saints as well. Out of respect for the tarot, I'm going to get up and bring Temperance back to her or his place, because she fell over. Oh dear, okay. How's that looking? That's okay. It's going to fall over again. Good. The guardian angel, in my view, shouldn't be thought of as a comforter. I think that is exactly what we're avoiding here. We're attributing to religion the idea that it should make you feel good. Religion, if it makes you feel good, fantastic, but that's a byproduct of a sincere engagement with a kind of bodily intuition. That's why guardian angels have become such a marketplace. Do a little bit of Google searching or go on YouTube and you'll see countless resources for magnifying or listening to the inner angel, your guardian angel, which is always there for you. Speaks to this, the classic atheist reproach of the religious is, it's just answering a riddle that you want to hear. Even more damning, in my opinion, is the common idea of a guardian angel is an expression of an intolerance to suffering, a refusal to accept that the world is so harsh and brutal. Where were the guardian angels for the homosexuals, the gypsies and the Jews and the communists during the Third Reich? They weren't particularly helpful there. Where was the old loving Old Testament God? And further to this perversion, this perverse idea of a God, of a guardian angel, is the angel bothering, let's imagine, a hardened atheist, sitting at the bedside every single day, demanding the atheist to commit errors. Otherwise, there's no job for the angel to do. There needs to be something sinful for the guardian angel to fix. So this is, of course, something I want to deconstruct and destroy. They are, by definition, it is as a consequence of what we think of them, that they are not human, that they are not us. If we heard them, and there's a huge fine line between divine interaction and schizophrenia, if we're listening to this divine voice, we want to hear it, we're listening to ourselves. It's that line between schizophrenia and divine interaction. The world can't be this cruel, we say to ourselves. But really, it's the sadness or the shock of knowing that God is deaf to your suffering in this strict sense. So that's rather miserable stuff. Temperance also, to me, is nothing but a deferred decadence. There's something decadent, first of all, in wanting to go to heaven. It's very selfish. You perform all the good deeds in order to get your access to eternal paradise, and therefore will be self-righteous about anyone who doesn't follow your way of life. It's a cynical reading of a guardian angel. Self-righteous with regards to addiction, self-righteous with regards to balance and enforcing this perceived temperance upon people who don't follow your way of life. Those who abstain often enjoy and indulge very much in one intoxicating thing, which is telling off people who do. You spend time away, you fold your socks, You chew things slowly in order to get your access to heaven and to punish all the people who aren't following your way of life. However, good approach, I believe, in temporary temperance, temporary balancing or abstaining, is it gets you to more fully enjoy such dependencies and substances later on, whatever they may be. You're almost savouring the flavour even more than those who would continuously or consistently indulge. It's a quote from a speech by Pope Francis in 2014. Pope Francis concluded with a series of questions so that each one can examine his or her own conscience. And the quote is as follows. How is my relationship with my guardian angel? Do I listen to him? Do I bid him good day in the morning? Do I tell him, guard me while I sleep? Do I speak with him? Do I ask his advice? Each one of us can do so in order to evaluate the relationship with this angel that the Lord has sent to guard me and to accompany me on the path, and who always beholds the face of the Father who is in heaven. And another story, Father Giovanni Giuseppe Califano recounted how one day a newly appointed Pope confessed upon Pope John the 23rd that he could not sleep at night due to an anxiety which was caused by the responsibility of his office. The Pope told him, you know, I always thought the same when I was elected Pope, but one day I dreamed about my guardian angel and he told me not to take everything so seriously. Pope John attributed the idea of calling the Second Vatican Council to an inspiration from his guardian angel. The angel throughout It's a Wonderful Life. What's the story at the end of It's a Wonderful Life? Of course, we perceive it as the man avoids his own suicide, thanks to some divine voice. The little girl jumps on George Bailey's shoulders, or sort of cuddling him. Everyone in the neighbourhood is around, opening crackers and eating sandwiches. And the girl hears a bell ring. When a bell rings, the angel gets his wings. George Bailey looks up and says, there you are, old chap. The idea is you're reading into It's a Wonderful Life, reading into the angels that they're only doing it for their own good, for being closer to God. Angels, they are the messengers of God, but they're not earth-dwelling. So if we're going to have the balance, if we're going to invite this needy presence in our lives, we have to first of all understand what balance is, what balance means. Balance is therefore, or achieving balance doesn't necessarily involve a peaceful, measured series of steps towards a calm equilibrium. It could mean inhabiting, for however much time required, the uncomfortable opposite, jumping from one side of the yin into the yang. It could even be you in the opposite, as we have the black in the white and the white in the black. So reconciliation isn't without conflict. Just go back to the idea of tempos, from tempos, from where we get temple, time, and temperance. It comes from the word stretch. Stretch. The growth of muscle through the destruction of muscle. Muscle fibre. It's separated and therefore grows stronger. Or the idea of cutting a plant. Poder. Is it podar or poder? Prune. To prune the plant in order for it to grow even further. Putting water in your wine. Destroying the substance that is held to be sacred. In French, mettre de l'eau dans son vin is to put water in one's wine. It actually means to adopt a more moderate stand. It could be a positive thing, to be balanced. It could be a negative thing. It could be to give up your ideals, to sell yourself. It makes something easier to drink, in the good and the bad sense. It makes life go down more easily. Homework. How is this different from justice? How is this different from the Pope? How much does the guardian angel speak? How much does the guardian angel actually say, do this? Or how much is it more, don't do that? How much is this the classic Freudian superego, the nagging kind of frightened, socially awkward voice in our heads, and how much is it something which through deeper balance is actually a voice or a gesture for further spiritual growth? Thank you for listening, and I'll see you tomorrow morning.